You're listening to the Roofr Report, the ultimate podcast for roofing professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs. Get insider access and hear about the highs, lows, and tales of triumphs from thriving business owners. Brought to you by Roofr, hosted by Pete McKendrick.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Roofr Report. I'm your host, Pete McKendrick, and we are back with our Roofer of the Month series. We started it last year. A great idea from our marketing department to kind of bring on some roofers that are using our product and showcase their business a bit, talk a little bit about, how they got into roofing, what they're doing, how their company's growing, what successes they've found, what challenges they've faced. And we've had a good mix. We've had some younger roofers that are new to the industry. We've had some folks that are very established, that have come up in the business and taken over a family-run business or things like that. And, it's been great to hear everybody's story and kind of figure out, the differences, but and also the similarities in the challenges that everybody faces in this industry. And we are joined today by our February Roofer of the Month, Joshua Keith. Excited to finally get you on here and chat a little bit and get your story. So Joshua owns Roofing Technologies Unlimited. You guys are out of Houston? Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah, Houston, Texas. So I'm excited to talk with Joshua today. And I know he's got an interesting story, kind of get the backstory and hear some of the great stuff that he's got going on. So Joshua, I'll give you a second here, kind of like introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Roofing Technologies Unlimited, just the makeup, how long have you guys been in business? How many employees do you have? That kind of stuff.
Sweet. Okay. Well, like you said, my name is Joshua Keith, and I am the CEO of this company. My brother is the COO, is also a partner. He's 9 years older than I am, and he's also a 50% owner. So it's just me and my brother out here in Houston, Texas. We started the company back in 2022, almost 3-year anniversary to when we started. So I got started in this industry back in early 21. I actually used to play football, right? I used to play. That's all I did was play football. Everyone knows I was a football player, made it to the NFL, played with the Los Angeles Chargers for a very brief period in time. They call it the NFL for not for long, okay? So the not for long aspect is real. I experienced that, but I was a professional athlete for 18 months. Bounced around in multiple different teams, a lot of different tryouts. Came back to Houston for a little while, then went and played arena for a little bit, and then COVID-19 happened. And it kind of like forced me to kind of hang up my cleats in a way. And so that's how I got into roofing. I mean, I found a job offer on Indeed, and I went and worked with that company for about 4 months and did really well at that company. And they fired me for kind of like no reason at all. And they actually fired me so they didn't have to pay me commission. So I kind of was like, at that point, I said, you know what? I don't really want to work. If I'm not in some type of ownership conversation, I'm not really wanting to work at that company. And so I took a huge leap from sales rep, super green sales rep, 3 or 4 months in to a chief marketing officer in a company. And from there, I kind of grew into that position and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about business and kind of progressed that way. Ended up opening up my company in April of 22. And my brother, he didn't join right away in 22. We started the company in 22, but he was living in DC. So he lived in DC and it took him until January of 23 to move down here. From April to December, we didn't do very great in business. It was just all on me. We did about $250,000 in revenue. And it was mostly side hustle at that point. I was surviving basically every month. My brother moved down in January of 23. That calendar year in 23, we kind of blew up. We 10x. We did about $2.5 million, and we signed about $5 million in contracts. And then we were able to kind of build a lot of that into 24. And we just finished 24 right at 4 million. Not quite 4 million built, but It's been a super accelerated time for us. And our company, Roofing Technologies Unlimited, is a company that is a faith-based company. Our core values are integrity, service, competency, right, and technology. We want to use the best technologies on people's roofs, especially if we're going to do an insurance claim and the homeowner is going to pay a deductible. We want those products to be better than they were before. That's kind of what we are. We're kind of an aftermarket residential roofing company. We've dabbled a little bit in commercial roofing. Still not quite there knowledge-wise, and we're still learning a lot about commercial roofing. We've done a lot of maintenance and a lot of different small projects for commercial properties. We've done one really, really big project in 23, And we're just kind of like, we're not in a super hurry to be a commercial roofing company because it takes a lot of our focus. But what we've done really well, our bread and butter is our residential roofing services. And since then, we've obviously grown pretty big, in my opinion. I'd like to say so. And I think that we have a really good projection for this year and a really good projection for the next 3 or 4 years.
Are you guys doing mostly residential retail work or insurance work or a combination of both?
We have a combination of both. So last year in 2023, we did about 95% insurance. In 2022, 100% insurance. This last year, 24, we did about 25% retail. Okay.
Okay.
So we did about 75% insurance, 25% retail. And then this year, we're kind of even going a little bit more heavy on the retail stuff just because we know where the industry is kind of headed. We know the industry is not going to be a super claim, insurance claim world for much longer. So we're kind of adapting it now and kind of getting that process and getting those things taken care of.
Yeah, I like it. So, I asked a lot of questions about coming up. Obviously, you guys are still fairly new, right? Going into your about 3 years in business, right? So I would still consider you guys fairly new. And what do you think has
Absolutely.
been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way here? Like you said, obviously that first year on your own was pretty tough, scrapping just to get through it. And so obviously you were wearing a lot of hats at that time and experienced a lot of stuff. But what have you found to be some of the bigger challenges as you guys have grown?
That's a good question. I think some of the challenges that we faced, honestly, from a zero capital position to grow into a position where we do have capital and are operating from a place of cash where we have cash to do stuff was a challenge at first. We had to really focus and build cash reserves right away. That was a challenge. And then one of the other challenges for us, which we've done, I'm grateful. The other challenge is really the people aspect internally, like finding the right person, the right type of people that you want you want your brand to be sold with. And I heard this from somebody, I'm sure somebody famous said this, but it's like hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I started a business. I'm a hard-headed, stubborn kind of individual, but I had to learn that lesson in 24, pretty big, because we got to a position where it was like, okay, now we're breaking through this second threshold of business, which is about $3 million. Your first threshold is about 300,000. Your second threshold is about 3 million. Your third threshold is about 10. And as we were breaking through that, it's like learning how to work through people, training, processes, operation, and then finding the right people, and also understanding like the time that it takes for an individual to grasp it to a point where it can be delegated to them properly. And so that's been one of the biggest challenges that I've faced as a business owner, is just finding the right people that fit the job description, that are willing to be loyal and stick with it. So far, we've corrected some of those things. We've cut out the bad apples, we've cut the cancers out of our business, and we've moved forward. And I think the team that we have this year is night and day different from the teams that we've had prior, just because everybody's on the same page, and we're about a 10-person company now.
Nice.
And that was the other thing, is we had probably too many people in 23 and 24, based upon like the projections of what we're actually capable of being able to build and do. And so kind of had too many people and not the right people. So it was like a double lesson there for me. So
It's funny.
probably those two things, cash and that.
Yeah, I did a podcast early on when we first started this podcast on leadership with Ty Backer, who I'm sure you know. And Ty actually,
Love Ty.
that was one of the things that Ty said. It was one of the hardest lessons he learned. And he learned to hire slow and fire fast, and realize very quickly that someone is not a good fit, not prolong it, not drag it out to where it starts to negatively affect not only your business, but your other employees. I think it is a tough lesson to learn, because early on you need those people, right? Even sometimes they're not the ideal person situation in a pinch where you got to have them. And, so it makes it tough. It's definitely a challenge, but, very similar to what a lot of new businesses experience. I think the money situation, the financial side of it, is something that a lot of people coming into the industry don't necessarily understand, don't have a good grasp on, don't really have a background in, right? So it makes it very tough to kind of, like you said, you go from, I did a podcast with Corey Combs from South Shore Roofing, and Corey
Dude,
talked
awesome.
about, having like no money to all of a sudden having cash flow just flowing in like crazy. And he said like he was irresponsible with it, and he had, a counter full of bills that he wasn't paying because he just was doing other stuff. And, there just was no like priority given to the financial side of the business. And so I think you've learned some lessons early on that are some that a lot of people don't learn till much later on in business.
I have to credit my brother, because my brother, from where he was in the time when I started in roofing, he was on year like 12 of country club management. So he was in hospitality. He's got a business administration degree from James Madison University.
Nice.
And like, this dude was running a $15 million operation day to day.
Yeah.
Right. At a $150 million country club. And so the cash flow that he was dealing with and having to manage was a lot. And so when we first started, we were like fast tracking a lot of things, but then we had to kind of really pull back and be like, okay. And he's been really good about like, no, no, no. I'm like, yes. I'm like, so it's a really healthy balance between pushing and driving, revenue, but also kind of being like what's realistic. And it's been a really good partnership to do business with my brother.
Yeah. I do think that is a mistake, honestly, that a lot of guys make in this industry, right? Is you get in it and you have this idea of what you want the business to be, and then you have an opportunity to grow the business, essentially grows out of control, right? And it gets to the point where it gets extremely difficult to manage, right? Because it just blows up on you. Like I just did a podcast with a guy yesterday who said, my goal when I started my roofing company was to be a small mom and pop operation so that my wife and I could go on vacation. He's like, and here I am, a year or two later, taking on two partners, looking at a company that's probably 3 times the size of what I expected it to be. So, so it is very easy to kind of mismanage that, obviously, and for it to get out of hand very quickly. And I've talked to some companies along the way that just grew exponentially way too fast and just became a complete mess, because of it. Too many people, like you said, too many people, too much going on, and just too hard to manage. So yeah, you guys have done a really good job of recognizing some of the major pitfalls that some of these companies fall prey to early on. So talk a little bit about what you guys have going on. Like you said, you guys are a faith-based business. I know you guys have got some really cool community stuff going on. I know you guys just did a roof for a family. So talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys are doing in addition to just your everyday roofs.
Yeah, thank you. I came into the industry hungry for money. That's the truth. That was where my mindset was. And I made a decent amount of money selling roofs and stuff like that for other companies. I went through a really tough time in 22. I was working with the wrong company, making too much money. And I was elaborately living that lifestyle off the field, if you will. I took advantage of it. It was just me. It was just taking care of myself. And so I could live on nothing and I could splurge the rest. And so I was definitely in a bad place in my life. And it wasn't until June of 22 that like I hit kind of a rock bottom with my life. And that's when I like really met my creator. And I met Jesus Christ, right? Like I met my savior, and I needed a savior. I was a person that was completely lost in my ways, and I had to really dig down deep, and my back was against the wall. And I had somebody tell me in that process from June to about July, end of July, I had somebody tell me in that process of kind of like realizing like where I was, to have a heart posture for the Lord as opposed to hustling for the Lord. So as I made my switch away from kind of like money and greed and just trying to compare myself to everybody, I had to switch to like what and why and who I'm doing this for and why am I doing it. And I did make that switch. I made the switch to be like, I want to help people. I want to help people with their insurance claims. I want to help people with their roofs. I want to make sure that it's a quality roofing system. And I want the roof to be warranted and all the bells and whistles that you need whenever you spend thousands and thousands of dollars with somebody. And so I just sat at the Lord's feet with it. And I decided that I'm not going to go into this or go after this in terms of just trying to make money. Because you can make money and still be as empty as you were before you started making money. And so that's kind of where the origin of that comes from, and that's why we say we're a faith-based company. We want to be a company that, we're not afraid or ashamed to say that we're a Christian company, that we honor the Lord with everything that we do. We live out what Colossians 3:23 says, is to do it as if we're doing for the Lord. And whether you're a believer or not, we want you to know that because we are believers, we're going to go the extra mile and serve you, grab our towels and wash your feet, and like really go the extra mile for our clients. That's really where that comes from. And I had to learn that lesson, obviously, the hard way. I hit rock bottom in 22, and that was a really tough lesson that I had to learn. But as I learned it, I feel like God just like poured on the acceleration, and it was a big learning moment in my life. And from that point, like I haven't looked back, and it's been nothing but acceleration and nothing but just growth in a humble posture, like just to stay humble. I can't stand some of the arrogant things that I've seen. And I'm like, man, I definitely don't want to look like that. I don't want to be like that. That's not who I am. I want to be in a place where, people see me as somebody that just cares about doing the right thing, even when nobody else will. And so that's where like the integrity piece comes from. And so I've been blessed, really fortunate and really blessed to still be on this earth today. And so every ounce of my breath I'm going to use to like glorify the Lord and put every foot forward in our company to glorify the Lord with it. And so it's more of a ministry thing now for us. Like we really, you mentioned the heart posture thing. Like I could touch on that really quickly. That, she was a family friend, and I witnessed her lose her husband. You know what I mean? And like I watched that happen in my life. And then like when I went out to go do the repair, she called me for a repair. She had a leak on her chimney. Her chimney flashing was done incorrectly. It was like a $1,500 repair. It was like an expensive repair to her at the point at time. So when I said that I would do the repair for $100, she realized it was like almost a $1,500 repair, and I was going to do it for $100. And that broke her down really, really deeply. And it was like, it moved me to be like, you know what? Like we haven't done anything like that ever, but why not? Why not try and give her the roof for free? And so we reached out to a couple people, and by the grace of God, it all kind of got pushed through, and we were able to build the roof at no cost to her at all.
Yeah.
But we were blessed enough in a position to be able to do that, and we look forward to doing it again. We're going to do it probably 3 or 4 times this year, just to continue to like find these stories and bless people. And we're actually even thinking about opening up a 50c13, a nonprofit organization that actually receives donorships, like people sponsoring a roof or whatever like that. That way we can actually do it more frequently and do it from a place of rest. So
Yeah.
that's where a little bit of that comes from.
Oh man, that's great. It's a great story, and it was a great thing that you guys did. It was really really a moving video. If you guys have not seen that, take a look at it. I think Josh, you have it up on the Roofing Technologies page, right?
Yeah, it's on our YouTube. It's on Facebook. Yeah, definitely take a look. And then if you are somebody that is willing to, explore what that looks like and look at it like a opportunity to sponsor a roof, we're open, and we're ready to receive those types of things.
Yeah, it's very cool. So let's talk a little bit about one question I have for you. You said that you are a staff of 10 now. What do you
Yes.
think, looking back now, you're up to 10 people, and you said you've had some employee hiccups along the way. What would you say was your most important hire?
Yeah, my brother was my most important hire for sure. My brother-in-law was my second most important hire, just because, you know, I like to keep things close. I like to, it's interesting. Let me back up for a second. So the way that I see things, like I look at, if you don't know anything about roofing, it doesn't mean you can't get hired by me. Right? Because I can see the patterns, and I can teach the things that I need that person to know.
Yeah.
For example, my brother-in-law was a great hire because all he does and all he has experience doing was looking at computers, and he's a big video game guy and like loves video games, and like he was a banker, and so he was always doing, fraud stuff on his computer, but he was like a 9 to 5 guy that looks at his computer all day. And I'm like, that's an estimator. That's somebody that can write estimates all day long, all day. And so that's kind of the way that I'm hiring people now, right? Is I'm looking at them saying like, okay, so you had experience selling cars, you never sold roofs before. You're probably going to look like you could have a pretty good sales career in roofing. So let's look at it there. And I try to see the destiny in people And then I just pour into whatever that position is. Those two, though, right there probably answer that question the best. Is like my brother and my brother-in-law both have been incredible for me because they're doing stuff that I don't like to do, which is paperwork and estimates. So it's been able to help me sell more, and I've been able to sell a frequent amount. Done a pretty good job of selling for the company, but then there's another couple of guys on my team now that I believe have been really good hires. Really poured into a couple of kids that came from that are honestly testimonies in itself. I have a kid on my team who's a complete 180. His whole life is a 180. Like he was selling drugs, on the streets selling drugs, and then he completely changed his life, gave all of that up, and now he serves the Lord and he sells roofs. And so it's something that I saw the destiny, even when it was in something that wasn't legal and wasn't right.
Right.
Like I saw the destiny. I said, no, you can be good at this. And now he's one of my best he's my best salesperson. And so,
Love it.
at the end of the day, like that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to do with my people. It's not just a ministry to like our outreach and helping the homeowners and stuff, but it's also an internal thing with our employees. But I have hired people that were like didn't really fit the mold and didn't really buy into like the extra mile stuff, and that kind of was not a great fit both parties, right? But it was a mutually benefiting thing to kind of be like, all right, we need to
Part
go
ways.
different direction in this and part ways. But my two most important hires to date, I think my whole team's awesome right now, actually. Let me just say that.
I
I
like it.
love
I
my
like
whole
it.
team. My whole team right now is just incredible. Each person has their own, they're in the right position and they're doing the right things. But for the last 3 years almost, my brother and my brother-in-law have been like really there for me and been really great hires.
Well,
Turned
I
out to
like
be.
it because it speaks to two things, right? It speaks to the fact that by using technology, which you talked about at the beginning, you employ technology, you guys want to be a tech advanced company. It allows
Yeah.
you to bring people from outside of the industry in, right? But it also speaks to the fact that you guys have obviously developed a process, a solid process early on, and that's something that a lot of times, I think it's Ty Backer again. I think I was listening to him at RoofCon or something. It was one of the events, and he said, "You always have a process, even if in the beginning your process is figure it the hell out, right? Like
Right.
that's a process." He's like, "It's not a good one, but it's a process,
Yeah.
And so, but obviously you guys have dialed in a pretty good process because to be able to bring people in off the street that don't have a roofing background and don't necessarily understand roofing, and then have them excel in such a short period of time, they're obviously joining a good team with a good process in place that they're able to come up to speed so
Yeah.
quickly. And, I think that's something that people struggle with. And that's why employees and hiring good people tends to be such a big issue in this industry, is because we're not really set up to make these people successful when they come in. Right. And then on the flip side of that, we rely on so many people in the industry. We're bringing employees in that have a sales background in roofing, but all those people come with bad habits, right? They've sold for somebody else. They've had issues. They've potentially gotten burned by somebody else. So they're already got, these ideas
Yeah.
in their head of how they want to do things. And it's very hard to get someone like that to buy into a process, and I think that you guys have found a niche there, finding people outside of the industry that you see the potential in, and then you bring them in and just get them in the process and find success there. So kudos to you guys for the way you're doing that, because I think it's
Yeah.
a
Thank you.
cool approach, and I think it is the most successful way to do it for sure.
Yeah, we make tweaks every quarter. Like I watched this thing from Elon Musk. As an entrepreneur, you gotta always be learning. So I'm learning still to this day. And one of the things I learned early on in the business was to take away from as much as possible. So like we have a process. How much can I take away from that process and keep the same efficiencies? And then what do I need to add back? Okay, we need to add this back, or we need to add this back. And so I've been able to like change that up quarterly, and so we're always like adapting it in small tweaks, whether it be a financing thing or a sales SOP thing. But we have so many SOPs in place. Like I could literally grab anybody right now from the street and teach them how to be a great roofing contractor sales wise, and then I could also grab them and bring them into the office, and they could right away start making things happen as a kind of an assistant or as like an office admin type of person. I could immediately make those things happen because I've tweaked out those things so many different times. I mean, think about it. We've been doing this for about 3 years now. We've tweaked that thing every quarter for the last 3 years. So it's like we're just finalizing our quarter one tweak for this year. And every time we tweak it, it's like the efficiencies gets a little bit better. And we're just always like kind of micro tweaking things. We had to do now, one of the things we had to do last year was switch from AccuLinks to Roofr. That was a big tweak, right? So that changed everything for our whole system. And we're super grateful too, because it actually automated and it made it more efficient and saved us money. So it was one of those things where those tweaks kind of roll into all of the systems that you use, all the tools and all the things that you use to like run the business with. It's a big deal. Like those handbooks and those SOPs, like when somebody shows up to the door, we're ready to hand that process to the sales rep, and we're also ready to hand that process to the homeowner for what they're expecting to happen. I'll take the kudos because people don't understand how much work goes into those things. Like you start a business, and you're like, "Oh, right, it's great. We're frigging it the heck out." Like Ty Becker said, "Yeah, it's awesome until you got to like actually write something down for somebody and teach them how to do it."
Yeah.
So,
And it's cool. So I used to be in manufacturing, and in manufacturing we had this thing called Lean Six Sigma, and it's continuous process improvement. And essentially it's exactly that, right? It's taking a process that you think you have dialed in and looking at it again and saying, okay, we could go a little bit more granular on this. We could do something, tweak something just maybe tiny, right? Like you said, maybe it's completely doesn't seem like anything, like we're changing anything. And just over the course of time, it's going to snowball into something significant. We used to literally count the steps that it took an employee to walk over and get a tool and come back and do a job. And like, what if we move that tool 2 or 3 feet closer to him so that he didn't have to walk over there and get it, right? Like down to that level of granularity, because over time, you're saving him 2 steps every time he goes and gets that tool, and he goes and gets it X number of times a week. Over the course of the year, you're saving him walking a mile. How much time did you just save him, which equates to dollars, and and that's how you affect the bottom line. I like that you guys have set up an actual quarterly review, more or less, of the process to tweak it, because I wish more people would do that, right? Like constantly look to improve it. And I think,
of course,
having a CRM, like having a product where you can see your workflows every day and you're seeing your numbers makes it a lot easier to find those areas of opportunity and be able to address them.
Yeah, and it comes with like different automations too. Like one of the things that we like about Roofr is that we literally can, for each stage, set up automations and tasks for each stage. And so it's like we're trying to streamline things and make it more efficient and be able to like spin the wheel faster. And so right now we just feel like everything that we've done for the last couple of years has like really kind of created a pretty dope like process, and like we're able to like speed the lead very quickly.
Yeah.
It's actually one thing that I learned from Joseph Hughes in Contractor Dynamics was like, you got to have like a lead. You have to have a system in place. And so these systems that we've put together have been transformative to our business. I did have a process at the beginning, and not too much has changed, but it's drastic. Like even just these small literal things, it's like the same process, right? But these little tweaks just make it more efficient and faster. And so it's awesome. I love it.
So what's on the horizon for you guys? What's the future looking like? What's the goals here going in through 2025 and the next couple of years for the company?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned earlier about like the heart posture stuff, right? For the last 3 years, each year that we've gone into, a calendar year, we've set out a goal, right? It's been a revenue goal. We're going to go do 7 million this year. Last year, 23, we're going to do 7 million. Okay. 24, we're going to do 7 million, right? This year is not a revenue goal anymore. We're not doing revenue goals anymore. So the horizon is not revenue goals. We're not doing those. Those revenue goals are for me to know. Our goal is to help 500 people this year. Our goal is to go out. And so that's all we talk about. We have an EOS system in place with our team for like level 10 meetings, like management meetings, and then like with the sales team. We meet once a week, and we have a sales meeting. I guess we have 2 meetings, one with the entire team, one with the sales team on Thursdays. And we do it EOS, like traction, rocket fuel, Wickman, all day long. We're doing EOS now. Yeah. We switched to EOS last year, and that's been a tweak. That was awesome, right? Just in meeting tweaks, right? Like how much time can we save in meetings, right? But we've switched from a revenue goal model where I was like, revenue,
Right.
let's go, money. That whole process sucks. And I'm going to like say that now. And that way anybody listening knows that like I think that process sucks. So if you do that, it sucks.
Yeah.
You're going to be short of your revenue goal every year unless you hit it. And then when you hit your revenue goal, you're like, there's problems with that too, right? And so I think that the horizon looks like this. We're going to have a people goal, and that people goal is going to go up every year. We're going to go help a certain amount of people every year. This year, we're going to help out 500 people. I'm not presenting revenue, or I'm not presenting how short we are in revenue, or I'm not presenting those types of things to the team or to anybody else, really, because it doesn't matter. Money to me, if I help enough people, I'll make the profit, I'll make the money that I need to make. But at the end of the day, what we really want to like really instill in our team and our company is just people over profit, really helping people. And it also kind of dramatizes there's a lot of companies out here that will just go sign a bunch of claims, claim, whichever one hits, they'll help that person, right? Well, when somebody gets their claim denied, or there's some type of problem, or they don't want to pay you, or there's all kinds of, it's like that person wasn't really helped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the speed of which we're moving is a little bit slower paced, but I feel like it's kind of a turtle and a rabbit race. The turtle and rabbit,
Yeah.
it's like more of a turtle approach, and just being consistent and showing up and really helping each person out to the best of our ability,
like it.
Whether they get denied or approved or whatever it might be, finding a solution, right? Even if it's a repair solution, because then there's companies that are like, oh, during the hurricane, we did like 400 repairs during the hurricane. Everybody was calling me like, do you do repairs? I'm like, yeah, we do repairs. They call me, and I had a huge amount of repairs that we did in the hurricane because there were companies that were turning down repairs and weren't doing or servicing the homeowner unless it was a repair. And I'm sure there's other companies in Houston that were feeling that effect when that hurricane hit, where it's like, yeah, I'll do the repair, no problem. Like there was so many companies that were just like, I'm just looking for the home runs. We're ready to hit singles and doubles, and we don't always need the home run because it's about people. If we can just help people, then we're golden, right? And that's where we're at for like this year, next year. We'll look at potential private equity stuff, not for us to sell, but for us to grow into like a multi-state type of position. We are licensed in Colorado, technically. I've got my license in Colorado. I like Florida market, but I kind of want to be in a position where we're doing really good here in Texas, and then we can have a conversation in a couple of years with some private equity people when they're making that splash right now.
Yeah.
I believe my processes and systems and things that are in place, and also the heart posture of the company, is something that is worth more than what they would value right now. And then eventually, the revenue, the dollars will add up to like a valuation that I like.
I like it, man.
That's the horizon.
Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on today. This has been some great stuff. I think it's a great story that you guys have, and you guys are moving in a fantastic direction. And I just love the point of view that you're coming from, and the approach that you guys are taking is unique. And I think it's great. It's refreshing for the industry, and to see you guys excelling the way you guys are doing. And glad that Roofers along for the ride, and glad that we could have you as our Roofer of the Month for February.
Yes, sir.
That. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, excited to have you, and looking forward to seeing you guys continue to grow and be successful there.
Yeah, man, I appreciate Roofr and Richie and you and Nick and everybody on y'all's team is so awesome and phenomenal. We anytime we have issues, you guys are on top of it, and we really love growing with you guys and like where you guys are going with your horizon and stuff like that. So we're really excited to be a part of you guys partnering together to keep what we're doing the same type of things. So we're excited about that. I'm excited about the Houston market right now. We just got a board member position for the Houston Area Roofing Contractor Association. I just got onto the board recently.
Cool.
And, all of this stuff is because of the Lord. The Lord has given us the opportunity to be in these types of positions and be able to bless and help people. And so glory to God for that. And we're super excited for what this year looks like, and I'm super grateful to you guys for nominating me for Roofr. So I really appreciate you guys, and it's been an honor.
Good stuff, so it was a no-brainer for sure. So
awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, and be sure to join us next time on the Roofr Report. Check us out If you haven't seen some of the past Roofer of the Months, be sure to check that out. You can check that out on the roofr.com website. In the help section, all of our podcasts and masterclass are there. So be sure to jump on, check those out. Lots of good information, lots of great stories like Josh's on there to kind of see what we got going on in this industry and some of the great people that are doing some great things. So again, thanks, Josh. Thanks for being on, and congrats on Roofer of the Month. And we will see you all
Thank you,
next.
brother.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. Check us out next time on the Roofr Podcast. But until then, be sure to like us, subscribe to us, and check out all our other episodes on YouTube and Spotify.